Okay, today I'm going to present my case over the resolution Apple versus Android. And today I'm going to give you three reasons why you should vote for the Apple side. Um, have you ever thought of the term when it comes to storage, care options, or login options? Storage is a big issue for the 2016 year, being the fact that most people are actually paying for storage. And with Apple, they actually provide you a whole 5 gig when it comes to storage compared to other providers or other types of phones. And with that, you do not have to buy as much storage, and it is useful to compared to having Android. Login security. They have the option now where it is the thumbprint, which is the most secure path to actually locking your phone, being the fact that it's based off prints and imagings of the thumb or any other finger. When it comes to resale value and FaceTime, they are two big factors that actually lead in why people choose Apple versus Android. FaceTime and iMessages have their own specific system, which allows you to use Wi-Fi and other accessories to actually, without the care provider, to actually get in contact with other people. Resale value for Apple is actually twice as much the value of Android because of the equipment installed in it. And it actually is one of the few objects in the 2016 or the 21st century that has some type of resale value. Apple revenue for the 21st century is in the billions. That is something that most people do not know. They actually was a company that started after Android and outmarkets them by at least a third or two halves. Um, I'm trying to think of what else I want to say. So these stating facts. That's all I really want to say.
Are you aware thumbprint security is also available on Samsung Androids?
It's not available to all, and they also have malfunction with theirs, which is also a leading issue with Android.
Are you aware that the resale value of an iPhone is actually almost 50% less than its original purchase?
That's not true. By the stats in which I was given, the resale was valued higher because iPhone can at least be
What were those statistics?
Those statistics were told by Apple itself, Apple revenue on the resale value. Overall, it was in.
Did you obtain those sourced directly from the Apple brand?
Yes. Where did you? Okay, this is not mine.
Would you mind repeating your taglines one more time?
Storage units, storage use and care options, login security, resale values, and FaceTime iMessage feature.
Okay, and one last question. When you run out of storage on the iPhone, let's say starting with the 5 gig that you mentioned earlier in your speech, what is the user able to do? Are they able to buy more storage and expand, or do they have to get a new phone?
First off, when it comes to the gigs, you actually start off with the care provider, which is innate with the phone. Apple gives you, after you use up the gig or memories that's offered by your provider, an extra 5. So they're adding on that additional support that is not.
So are they expanding the phone, or do you have to get a new phone?
They're expanded within the phone because it's an alternate.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Judge, for taking the time to be here, and thank you, opponent, for coming to this debate. Without you, we wouldn't have much to talk about, and I'd probably just be talking to myself. So just to start off, Judge, I'd like to go ahead and bring up my opponent's contentions and then state my own. So my opponent mentioned that one of the reasons why Apple products are very favored is because of its storage unit. Except, according to my data that I collected from Time Business 2013, when it comes to Apple storage, they actually are very limited. You usually have to end up purchasing a new phone or buying more space. And then she brought up the resale value in FaceTime. Now, when it comes to FaceTime, Apple's having the FaceTime app is convenient, but there are a lot of different programs nowadays that you can also FaceTime, such as Tango or even using Facebook, which is what a lot of people generally use anyway. When it comes to the resale value, most of the time when you spend about $600 on an Apple iPhone, because it's outdated and they update so quickly, the value of that phone isn't even as equal to what you would assume it to be versus an Android, where you could generally at least reach 75% of that value. And then lastly, when she mentioned the login security, sure, when it comes to Apple's availability of having the thumbprint security or even face recognition, that is valuable, but other devices also have that feature now, so it doesn't make them as unique. So just to go into my three contentions: favored by people, better structure, and Samsung's big reputation. So to start off with my first contention of favored by people, according to Time Business magazine in 2013, there are more Android users worldwide than there are Apple users. In fact, 70.1% of the world owns an Android phone versus an Apple product phone. Secondly, they're more affordable than Apple. Apple generally, on average, their smartphones are about $653 on average. And that's just the cheapest. Apple products are notoriously known for being very expensive. So that's another reason why Android is favored by the people, because you are more likely to find a program on a much more affordable phone that's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. My second contention is its better structure. Not only does Android have an external hard drive option with its SIM card feature, it gives you that 15 gigabyte storage of internal storage, as well as having the option of having up to 32 or even 68 gigabytes on your external SIM card. So that makes it a little more convenient to the user, because if you're going to buy storage anyway, you might as well be able to have the option of just having the largest storage than sitting there and having to continuously update your phone the more data you need. Also, when it comes to the Android product, their multitasking ability and their customization is very unique, as Apple products generally have a problem when it comes to customizing their background or rearranging your apps. And you can't have more than 2 or 3 functions at a time open on an Apple phone like you can with an Android, where you can move files around or drop them in different locations. They also play well with others. When it comes to programs, they're far more adaptable to work with different features and programs when it comes to apps than it is with Apple, because with Apple, they have to go through them. And I contained most of this information from CNN Money, and it was a 2015 article. And lastly, my third contention is Samsung's big reputation. They have more employees than Google, Apple, or I can't remember the third one, but they have more employees than all of those three combined. In fact, the data that I obtained from arstechnica.com went ahead and pointed out that in 2014, they measured over 275,000 employees, which not only encourages the idea that Samsung is willing to spread economically, not only around the world, but internally. But when it comes to their production rate, they're generally on high. They're constantly putting things out, because there's more and more computer engineers that have the opportunity to express themselves and spread their wings and explore different opportunities. And on top of that, their marketing tactics are more vocal with Android devices than they are with Apple devices. Because they have this consistent revenue, they're able to constantly advertise themselves in small ways, while Apple generally has to come up with some new spectacular feature to make that next phone so interesting. And with that, Judge, I strongly urge you to vote towards the negation. I stand down for cross.
Okay, what are your 3 contentions?
Favored by people, better structure, Samsung's big reputation.
Better structure?
Yes.
And Samsung's reputation. My first question, is Samsung the whole Android market? Yes or no?
Samsung is a separate market that owns Android.
Are you sure about that information?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My second question, did you say FaceTime is convenient? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. You're sourcing about your stats compared to Samsung towards Android. You said they were in 2013, correct?
Correct.
The security in the phone. When it comes to iPhone and Android, who was the first one to install the fingerprint on the phones, iPhone or Android?
I don't have that data to confirm.
Thank you. When it comes to phones, add-ons, don't you think that all phones add add-ons over time?
Not always.
So Samsung has never added new add-ons or new features to a phone before?
I never said that.
Okay, thank you. When it comes to updates, are you aware that iPhone updates are the reason that iPhone marketing is actually a little bit better than yours?
No.
Okay, thank you. No further questions. Ready? Okay, so she says Samsung is over Android, but that statement is actually false, being the fact that there's many other carriers within it, such as Mobile itself, Razer, and many other companies actually are under Android. Samsung does not own Android itself. Android is a type of phone itself. Android is anything that's not Apple. When you talk about the 2013, my latest information is from 2016. So the current information that she has is a little less as valuable as mine, being the fact that it's from 2013 compared to 2016, 2015 information. And when she said favored by people, but how can that be so when worldwide Apple actually serves 215.69 billion people a year? And this is something that was stated by Apple itself from 2016 of February on the 26th. When it comes to better structure, the resale value actually went up and actually is very marketable because of the structure of iPhone. She says something about the storage use and having external sources on Samsung products, but not all devices in Android actually offers that, and that's only certain information. Being the fact that we're talking about all phones in Android and just not one brand, we need to focus on the actual resolution. Apple versus Android, not Apple versus Samsung. So we need to remember that as we think about today. She also said that they can only use one or two things on the phone. That's a fake statement, being the fact that when it comes to moving of the objects, once you tap the screen, all the objects are in use or at motion. And when it comes to the screens itself, you can slide them up and down once you hold the button. When you think about the apps are actually specified to the Apple itself, and that's one character that's strong within Apple and is so-called unique because they do not have the same options as Android. And people in Apple prefer saying that they have their own type of apps. FaceTime, she admitted, was most convenient because it's already on the phone. Majority of people prefer not adding on and actually having what's there available as an option. She said updates, 75%. Being the fact that you have updates, you get the more current version of everything that's out there, which is always a plus, not a negative. So we have to think of that as well. And when I think of her argument, Samsung's better, favored by the people, and better structure, we have the highest revenue or resale rate. And she said that's insufficient because the price range, but the price of iPhones, that resale value is the price in which she buys them for. So the economic value. Okay. Bye.
So just to start, my opponent never refuted any of my actual contentions. She merely disputed some of my information and then took what she got from cross-examination. But she never refuted the fact that, as far as structurally speaking, Android has always had a much bigger external option by giving you that 15 extra gigabytes versus the 5, and then giving you the option to expand your SIM card and being able to carry it with you versus having Apple send all your information to a cloud, which is omnipotent and then open to all of its users. Then adding to the fact that as far as multitasking, I'd like to clarify that when it comes to multitasking, you can have a Word document open and watching a video at the same time. And being, as I mentioned that, we never clarified we were just referring to the phones. So by referring to the functionality of the phone superiority doesn't necessarily make Apple products better than Android. Android products in general, although mistaken, yes, There are other companies that use the Android program, but Samsung is the most favored one that uses the Android program. With that being said, it does contain a continuous rate of updating. They update their programs just as much as Apple does. Granted, Apple may have different programs to update its functionality, but Android still makes those modifications themselves. Then, just to go back to my three contentions, when it came to mentioning them being favored by the people, the information being 4 years old doesn't make it old information. It's fairly recent information, so that doesn't make it any less valid. My opponent never mentioned any worldwide statistics that disprove that it being 75% higher in ownership is wrong. So just to go back to my three contentions, favored by the people, by having more Android users, it's due to the functionality of the program. It's something people are familiar with. And because Android has some functions with Google and Microsoft, they're programs that people have generally been accustomed to. While with Apple, the way that they function and the way their apps are operated, they don't function in the same click to the next way possible. It makes it a little more difficult for people that aren't using it for its high-tech functionality. Also, it's more affordable than Apple. You are far more likely to get a phone or a tablet or a computer or even a monitor in a much more affordable price than you would with an Apple product overall, which generally can average from $500 to $1,000 depending on what you're actually buying or what program Apple happens to be installed in, whether it's medical equipment and or otherwise. Like I already mentioned about better structure with its external hard drive and multitasking, the fact that Android can conform itself to different programs outside of itself. Whether it's working with a BlackBerry or working with a Motorola or working with Sprint, it can still adjust, while Apple only has Apple. It's very exclusive, and it only works with itself. It doesn't work well with other programs. Lastly, when I said their big reputation, she never mentioned anything about Apple's company reputation or their employment or how they treat their employees, so she actually dropped my contention. But to go back to it, they have a higher employee rate, making them much more expansive and more willing to take people in, while Apple generally has a smaller company, which may seem personable, but the fact that they're so selective on who they want to work for them makes it a bit inclusive and not as welcoming to random or even maybe not as high-class computer engineers like Samsung would be, that gives everyone an opportunity to work for them, whether it's in marketing or PR or otherwise. The fact that their production rates are so high, Apple constantly has to come up with some big new change the wheel idea, while Samsung is merely saying, we're personal. We're not trying to break the wheel. We're just saying we're improving every day. And the fact that their marketing tactics are more vocal, you see them more often, you see them continuously. They're constantly trying to remind you of their presence, while Apple is always going under dark, and it hides and hides until it finally has a nice product that they can showcase for the next 3 months. And with that, Judge, with my three contentions, I strongly urge you to vote for the negation.
Basically, the reason that I dropped one of her contentions is because I ran out of speaking time. Okay, when I get back to Samsung, she said Samsung is their fave. And when we were in Crossfire, she said that Samsung is actually over Android, which was a false statement, being the fact that she just admitted something about BlackBerry and other people that fall under Android. We're talking about Android as a whole. Apple is just not referring to Apple phones. Apple is a product within itself. Apple is Apple iPod. Apple is Apple laptop. Apple is Apple itself. It has its own unique qualities as a whole. When she talks about the different people and work ethics, Apple has actually 512 stores worldwide where they actually employ and let people work in the stores and work behind the scenes when it comes to technical issues. That is something that cannot be refuted or even in comparison to Samsung, being the fact that there's no Samsung stores present at this time. You just go to the store, you get your Android, and you go whatever it is to get it fixed. Apple has its own stores, so that means something. When you think about the issue with FaceTime and other things that she may have said, her three main contentions in which she wanted me to view was better structure, Samsung rep, and for the people. I tell why Apple is specified just for the people and it's specific carriers. And that's the reason why Apple is better, because it's specified just for Apple. We're not like the rest. Better structure. The resale value tells why our structure is actually better, because it's more revenue within our structure and the build of itself. And when you think about her third, Samsung's reputation, Samsung is just a part of Android. It's not Android itself. So when you think about BlackBerry, Razors, and all the others that are included, they bring down the value of Android's reputation. So Samsung rep plus everybody else rep equals bad Android rep. And that's what I want you to think about when you think of Samsung's reputation, because we're comparing Android as a whole. And I'm going to give you voters for why you should vote for mine. FaceTime and iMessage. She never said anything about the iMessage FaceTime feature. She said that it was convenient. So that's a positive, being convenient and having your own app. Storage usage carrier is actually an add-on plus the use that you get from your carrier from any basic phone. So that's a plus. Nobody actually knows the amount of storage that they have, being the fact that they're actually getting rid of external sources on Android, which was a statement made by a 2012 source for Android, which was actually Razer and some other whatever. And the login security, we did it first. They're just copycatting off of us because of how much revenue that we got based off of security. And the login security is extended to the My Find Your Phone, iPhone, and to the finger itself. So for that, that's where you should vote for Apple affirmative.